Right now, you are almost certainly wearing one, maybe several. A small disc of plastic, wood, or metal, so ordinary you forgot it was even there. But this tiny object once caused wars between tailors. It was once a symbol of wealth so extreme that owning too many could get you arrested, and for one single button, a king was once willing to bankrupt his entire treasury. This is the secret life of the button, and once you hear this story, you will never fasten your shirt the same way again. To understand why the button became so powerful, we have to go back to a world where clothes had no fastenings at all. For most of early human history, people wore clothing that was wrapped, draped, or tied. Robes, togas, simple cloaks held together with a pin or a belt. Archaeologists have found button-like objects from thousands of years ago, small carved discs made of shell and stone. But here is the surprising part. These early buttons were not used to fasten clothing at all. They were decoration, sewn onto fabric purely to look beautiful, with no buttonhole anywhere in sight. For thousands of years, humanity had invented the button, but never figured out what it could actually do. That single missing idea, the buttonhole, sat undiscovered for centuries. The breakthrough came sometime in the 13th century, most likely somewhere in Germany or the Middle East. Someone whose name history never recorded had a simple idea. Cut a small slit in the fabric, push the button through it. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but the single idea changed the shape of clothing forever. Before the buttonhole, clothes were loose. Robes, wraps, anything that could slide on and off the body easily. After the buttonhole, clothes could finally follow the shape of the human body. Tight sleeves, fitted jackets, clothing that hugged the waist and the wrist. For the first time in human history, fashion as we understand it today became possible. Once buttons could actually fasten clothing, the wealthy discovered something new. You did not need just enough buttons to close your jacket. You could add more, far more than necessary. By the 1300s, European nobility had turned the button into a competition. Wealthy men wore jackets with rows and rows of buttons, sometimes dozens on a single sleeve, made from gold, silver, and precious jewels. The button was no longer about function. It was about announcing, to everyone who saw you, exactly how much money you had. One French king in the 1500s reportedly owned a coat sewn with thousands of gold buttons, a single garment worth more than most people would earn in an entire lifetime. This obsession grew so extreme that governments eventually stepped in. Laws were passed across parts of Europe limiting exactly how many buttons a person could wear, based entirely on their social class. A wealthy noble might be allowed hundreds. An ordinary merchant might be legally limited to a handful. Wearing more buttons than your class allowed was not just poor taste. In some places, it was punishable by fine, or worse. The button had become something extraordinary, not just a fastening, a symbol so powerful that entire legal systems were built around controlling who could wear how many. Now here is something you have probably never noticed, even though you see it constantly. On most men's clothing, buttons are sewn onto the right side. On most women's clothing, buttons are sewn onto the left side. Nobody actually agrees on why. Historians have floated a handful of competing theories, and none of them has ever been proven. One theory points to wealthy households, men dressing themselves, right-handed and quick. Buttons on the right made it faster. Wealthy women, some historians argue, were more often dressed by servants, and buttons on what was, from the servant's perspective, the easier side made sense. Another theory points to swordsmen, who needed a free weapon hand to draw a blade worn on the left hip. A third points to something far less romantic, the rise of ready-made clothing factories generations later, which simply had to pick a side, and the choice stuck. Whatever the real reason, the divide never went away. It is still sewn into almost every piece of clothing manufactured today. Nobody making your shirt this year has any idea which of the stories, if any, is actually true. Now, the part where your brain quietly explodes. Fact 1. During the Second World War, British and American military intelligence secretly manufactured buttons with tiny working compasses hidden inside them. Soldiers who were captured could unscrew the button, use the hidden compass, and navigate their way to safety. The enemy searched prisoners for maps, weapons, and radios. Almost nobody thought to search a button. Fact 2. Some of the oldest known buttons in the world were discovered in the Indus Valley, dating back nearly 5,000 years, made from a curved seashell. The button may be one of the oldest fashion objects humans have ever invented, older than written language in most parts of the world. Fact 3. On some formal suit jackets today, the buttons on the sleeve cuff are entirely fake. They do not open, they do not fasten anything. They exist purely because, centuries ago, real functioning cuff buttons were a mark of a properly tailored, expensive suit, and the tradition never fully disappeared, even after the function did. Fact 4. The world's largest button collectors organizations hold buttons from royal families, military uniforms, and historic events that sell at auction for thousands of dollars each. A single button, once worn by a specific historical figure, can be worth more than a car. The next time you fasten a button, pause for just a moment. In that small disc of plastic or wood is a story that once required government laws to control. A story that helped a soldier find his way home during war. A story older than most written history on the planet. And a tiny household habit, whose real origin no one can fully explain, still followed by billions of people who have never once wondered why. The most ordinary objects carry the most extraordinary weight. You just have to know where to look. Here on Wonder Raft, we look. Subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.